In a year of momentous happenings, 1988 would see an historical changing of the guard in Pakistan. Unlike her opposition, Benazir Bhutto's Pakistan People's Party had a charismatic and seemingly competent leader.
We could have taken over power yesterday if my party had believed in violence, if we had believed in bloodshed. That crowd was so responsive that we could have taken Lahore yesterday, but my party did not want bloodshed. My party does not want violence.
Benazir had cleverly built up the momentum of her final days of campaigning, taking full advantage of the fact that the president, General Zia, had died in a plane crash a few months earlier. There were scenes of near hysteria wherever she stopped. The once unlikely prospect of a 35-year-old woman becoming Prime Minister of this Muslim nation of 104 million people was now a reality.
By the grace of God, our majority is so overwhelming that we believe that they might fail despite these efforts. And we'll have to just watch and see how many seats they attempt to rig. But as far as the public is concerned, it's there for everyone to see.
On November the 16th, 1988, in the first open election in more than a decade, Benazir Bhutto's PPP won the largest block of seats in the National Assembly. Bhutto was sworn in as Prime Minister of a coalition government on December the 2nd, becoming at age 35 the youngest person and the first woman to head the government of a Muslim-majority state in modern times. As Benazir took her place in the National Assembly for the first time, the House broke into spontaneous applause. It was the beginning of a new era for Pakistan, and 1988 would also see a new age emerging in the USSR. Mikhail Gorbachev introduced glasnost in the Soviet Union, which gave new freedoms to the once oppressed people, such as a measure of freedom of speech. This was a radical change, as control of speech and suppression of government criticism had previously been a central part of the Soviet system. The press became far less controlled, and thousands of political prisoners and many dissidents were released. At the same time, Gorbachev opened himself and his reforms up for public criticism. The law on cooperatives, enacted in May 1988, was perhaps the most radical of the economic reforms during the early part of the Gorbachev era. For the first time since Vladimir Lenin's new economic policy, the law permitted private ownership of businesses in the services, manufacturing and foreign trade sectors. Under this provision, cooperative restaurants, shops and manufacturers became part of the Soviet scene. In Estonia, for example, cooperatives were permitted to cater to the needs of foreign visitors and forge partnerships with foreign companies. Aeroflot was split into a number of independent enterprises, some of which became the nucleus for future independent airlines. These newly autonomous business organizations were encouraged to seek foreign investment. Just as unprecedented freedoms were now becoming a reality in the Soviet states, affairs in other parts of the globe were taking a turn for the worse. Iran Air Flight 655, flying from Iran to Dubai, was shot down by an American missile over the Strait of Hormuz, killing all 290 passengers and crew aboard, including 66 children. According to the US government, the crew of the USS Vincennes mistakenly identified the Iranian Airbus A300 as an attacking F-14 Tomcat fighter. However, the Iranian government maintained that the Vincennes knowingly shot down a civilian aircraft. Later, as part of a settlement, the United States agreed to pay $61.8 million in compensation for the Iranians killed. The United States did not admit responsibility nor apologize to the Iranian government. In May, the International Olympic Committee was still keeping the door open for North Korea to participate in the 1988 Games. And the result was a boycott of the Games by North Korea, which was still officially at war with the South. 1988 was a year of change, of economic and political freedoms, and a year that will be remembered as a year of momentous happenings.